What would you do if you heard a voice calling your name from the darkness, but you were completely alone? There's a lighthouse on the coast of Veracruz, a place where people vanish without a trace, where lost souls whisper in the wind. Some say it's just a legend, but one man decided to prove it wrong, and he was never seen again. Before we dive into this terrifying story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale of horror and mystery. And tell me, do you believe in ghosts? Let me know in the comments. Now turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. The Venustiano Carranza Lighthouse stood tall and unyielding against the relentless waves of the Gulf of Mexico. By day, it was a relic of the past, a landmark on the Veracruz Malecón that drew tourists and curious visitors. But by night, it became something else entirely. A place spoken of in hushed whispers by fishermen, a place where shadows stretched unnaturally long, where disembodied voices echoed in the empty halls, a place where those who enter after sunset never came out the same. The legends were many. Some spoke of a lonely keeper who had thrown himself from the top, his anguished scream still carried by the wind. Others whispered of a shipwrecked crew, lost at sea, forever seeking shelter within its cold walls. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. The lighthouse harbored a darkness no light could dispel. Miguel had grown up hearing these stories. There was something about the lighthouse that always drew him in, about that piercing beam of light cutting through the endless night. Now a journalist, he made a career out of debunking local myths. The lighthouse would be his next target. Armed with flashlight, a recorder, and his camera, he ignored all warnings. As the last sliver of sunlight disappeared over the horizon, he stepped through the rusted doorway and entered. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Only the distant roar of the waves broke the stillness. The air smelled of salt, dust, and something faintly metallic. Miguel switched on his flashlight and started climbing the spiral staircase. Every step creaked under his weight. Every shadow seemed to shift around him. Halfway up, his recorder crackled. A burst of static, then a whisper. He wasn't alone. Miguel froze, his pulse hammering in his chest. Just interference, he muttered, trying to shake off the creeping dread. But then, from somewhere below, a door slammed shut. It couldn't have been the wind. He spun around, flashlight trembling in his grip. Nothing, only darkness swallowing the stairwell below. A lump forming his throat, but he pressed on. He had to reach the top. At last, he stepped into the lantern room. The massive glass lens remained. The cracks marred its surface, and the machinery was rusted with age. He set up his camera, adjusting the lens to capture the haunting beauty of the abandoned beacon. Then, through the viewfinder, he saw it. A figure, standing in the doorway behind him. Miguel whirled around, Nothing. Just the wind howling through the broken glass. A cold sweat dripped down his spine as he turned back to the camera. The figure was closer now. Its form flickered like a dying flame. A man, his face obscured by shadow, his mouth moving without making a sound. And then the whispers returned. Not one, many. A deafening murmur that filled the room like a rising tide of sorrow. The air thickened. Invisible hands brushed against his clothes, his hair, his skin. Miguel tried to move, but his body refused to obey. The whispers merged into a single voice.
Join us, join us, join us.
His flashlight slipped from his grip, shattering against the floor. Darkness swallowed him whole. Miguel screamed, but the lighthouse devoured his voice as if he had never existed. By dawn, the lighthouse stood silent once more, unmoving, unchanged. His camera was found at the top of the tower. The final image recorded shut Miguel's wide, terrified eyes before the screen went black. He was never seen again. But on certain nights, when the wind howls just right, a whisper drifts from the lighthouse, a voice lost in the sea breeze. Some said it was just a coincidence. Others believe Miguel became one of the lost souls that haunt the lighthouse forever. But one thing is certain. On stormy nights, when the wind howls through the empty halls, if you listen carefully, you might hear a whisper calling your name. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like. Your support helps keep these terrifying stories alive. Hey now, tell me in the comments, will you dare to spend a night inside that lighthouse? Thank you for watching, and until next time, beware the whispers in the dark.